Tenant screening can make or break an investor. Here's how you can avoid losing money. When it comes to passive income, rental real estate is your bread and butter, but you need to make sure that you can get quality tenants that will pay rent on time every single month and keep your property in good condition. The tenant screening process starts at the very first interaction. You want to make sure that you ask these 4 questions. When are you moving? Why are you moving? How much do you make? And what is your approximate credit score? You want to know when they're moving to make sure that it fits within your time frame. If they're moving 3 months from now, then you're not going to keep your apartment vacant for 3 months. You need to know why they're moving. They probably won't tell you, but if a tenant is moving because, say, they can't afford their house because they lost a job or something, you really want to know that. The third thing is, how much do they make? I generally request that the tenant makes at least 40 times the monthly rent as their annual income and their approximate credit score. Every landlord has their set bar. Basically, I want to see at least a 700 credit score. Some new landlords might be afraid to ask these questions just because it's a stigma to ask people about their income in the United States. But you really need to know these things so you can save yourself time as well as the potential tenant. If they don't meet your requirements, then there's no point of them actually coming to look at the property. So you definitely should ask this before showing the apartment. And potential tenants already know that landlords are going to ask for this information. If not now, when they fill out the application, they're going to need to disclose this information. During the showing, you want to make sure you talk to the tenants as much as possible just to get any information. Any information can be a clue to how this person is, and you want to know as much as you can about them. An example of this was, I have student rentals, so when I was showing an apartment to a set of students, as I was talking to one of them, the other 2 were speaking amongst themselves, and I overheard, "Dude, this living room is huge! Can you imagine how many people we can have over? We can set up the beer pong table here, blah, 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 blah." I stopped listening after that, because as soon as I heard that, I was thinking, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a good idea. I don't really want to hear noise complaints from the neighbors at 12 o'clock at night. I definitely don't want the cops being called. So I didn't reject them outright right there, but in the back of my head, I'm going to pass on these guys. Personally, I really like student rentals. They're fairly easy to manage if you know what you're doing, but I'll get into the pros and cons in a future video. After the showing, you want to make sure every single adult that's going to be living there fills out a rental application. And with the rental application, I always ask for their past 3 addresses, their contact information for the past 3 landlord, their work information, including where they work, how much they make, and also the supervisor's phone number. I also ask for W-2s, pay stubs, as well as bank statements. I generally ask for the past 3 months. I also ask for a form of photo ID, such as an ID card or a passport, as well as a social security card. You really want to make sure that the person they say they are is really who they are. You don't want them to give you their cousin's social security number and their cousin has an 800 credit score, but they might have a 500. You want to make sure that the credit that you're running is for the correct person. Once you've received all that information, here's where you put the detective cap on, because you really need to dig deep into all this stuff and make sure that everything they say is true. You want to cross-reference everything to make sure everything is consistent. The social security number on the W-2 should match the social security number that they provided you. Names, everything need to match on every single document. You'd be surprised what kind of crazy stuff that I've seen. Let me tell you about a scenario that I faced recently. Last year, I was renting out a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment that I mentioned in my previous video about buying or renting. My first showing was to a lady that showed up in a brand new Mercedes. She was dressed very professionally. She told me that she worked as a manager in a trucking company in New Jersey and she was moving for work. My property is just 10 minutes from the George Washington Bridge, so it would have been a pretty fast commute to New Jersey. So she was looking in my area. At least that's what she told me. So she told me that she was working in a trucking company making $135,000 a year. Now, she provided me all the pay stubs, all the bank statements, her W-2s, as well as her ID card and also social security number. So to me at that point, I was like, wow, this person is prepared. She got me all her information really fast. Her credit score, she mentioned, was in the low 700s, which is higher than what I was asking for. And $135,000 is more than 40 times 2,250. So I was like, nice, I found somebody, and that was quick. This is gonna be great. Things didn't turn out as I expected. When I started looking into her bank statements, I found out that she had multiple cash deposits for just different amounts. It was random. Every couple days she would deposit a couple $1,000s, a couple $100s, but none of those deposits matched up to her pay stubs. That's when I started getting a bit suspicious. I looked into where she worked and I couldn't find the trucking company that she mentioned, but the address that she provided for was for a trucking company. So I reached out to that company to find out if this person who was applying rented there. Maybe it's a new job or something and she got the name wrong, or she just filled in the application wrong. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. But I was informed that there was nobody of that name that worked there. So I'm like, it was very suspicious. So I started looking into the credit report and I found out that she worked at this place called the Squeeze Lounge. Now I Googled Squeeze Lounge and found out that it's actually a strip club. Now I'm like, oh, so yeah, that definitely makes sense why she has a bunch of cash deposits. I mean, this is so crazy, I can't be making this stuff up. She had, I guess, photoshopped W-2, photoshopped pay stubs. Just, she wasn't thorough enough to Photoshop her bank statements, I guess. I mean, I looked at the banks that she actually put the deposits in, and that zip code of that bank matched up to where the zip code of Squeeze Lounge was. I mean, if she had told me that she was, a bartender, right? Like if she told me she was a bartender, I might not have passed up on her just because her credit was actually really good. She had cash in the bank for several months. And also, she was making a lot of money. She was making $135,000 easily. I might not have passed up on her if she had told the truth, but to go to the extent of changing all of these documents, that was way too fishy for me. You can't really tell what somebody like that can do. So definitely, if you get the hint of any red flags, you need to dig deeper and make sure. Another situation that I had to go through was when an agent bought 3 what seemed to be people in their 20s. They just started working, maybe had like 2 or 3 years worth of work experience. They were making not great money, but okay money. And the credit report that the realtor gave me showed credits in the 700s. So if you combined all their incomes, they would have qualified for the apartment. But being the paranoid person that I am when it comes to these things, I don't want to get burned. I ended up pulling the credit myself. And guess what? It was just kidding. It was actually a lot different than what was given to me. You know, I'm not sure if that realtor did it on purpose to make the commission, or if when the realtor checked the credit, it was 700 something, but then something happened and their credit plummeted 200 points. I don't know, but I'm so glad that I ended up checking it myself. Now, the reason I asked for the past 3 addresses as well as the past 3 landlords is so that I can call the landlords to make sure that they didn't have any issues paying rent on time, or they didn't have any noise complaints of like someone screaming at 12 o'clock or something, just to find out what type of person they are so I can avoid as much headache as I can. One tip is to take everything that the most recent landlord said with a grain of salt. Because if that landlord is having problems with the tenant right now, he can be saying anything to get rid of that problem and pass it on to you. So I would definitely try to get in contact with the second most recent landlord. Most landlords don't really cooperate and call you back, but if you get lucky with a management company, they generally get back to you in a timely fashion. I feel more landlords should take and return these calls just so we can have a better environment and work together to feel out how a certain tenant will be, just so everybody can avoid a headache. I would be so happy if the things that I've gone through and the situations that I've seen can help somebody dodge a bullet. Please comment below if you've gone through any of this sort of stuff where tenants gave you some fishy information so we can help each other grow and make money. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you.